welcome to the Extremis Publishing podcast. I'm Tom Christie. I'm delighted to be joined today by the authors of Fast Track to Property Millions. That's Alex Robertson, Laurie Duncan and Conar Tracey. And today we're going to be discussing all about the contents of their book. We're going to be talking about property trading, and we're going to be talking about scaling up to massive success, which is something that is discussed in their book in a variety of different ways, looking at all of the different topics related to the subject. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely, good to be here.
So, how did this project come about?
No idea. I don't know whose idea it was to write a book. We've never written a book.
I think it was Alex's at first. It was all really just to do about demonstrating more credibility with the trading company. As to kind of why we wanted to share in a different way. We'd already focused on growing a social media presence, and a lot of people seen our online content, but all three of us started learning about property through written format, and Laurie's got a cool story, in fact, about one specific book that you read on that flight.
Yeah. First book I ever actually read, apart from Light Under Maya. Light Under Maya I was forced to read in primary 5, I think it was. And that's where I learnt the SOS signal and Morse code, But apart from that, never read books, hate reading. To be honest, I listen to audiobooks, but I could never get into reading. And anyway, as I was searching for this kind of new way of life around 4 years ago now, I was browsing on my iPhone, actually in the bookstore, and I came across this book called 0 to 135 Properties in 3.5 years. And I thought, that's a lot of bollocks, no way you can achieve that, I'm too curious, I need to read it. So I did, and I started reading it. I started kind of just skipping through the pages on your phone as you do, and that was the very first time I learned about whole kind of property trading, buying property with none of your own money, all these strategies that we use in our business on a daily basis now. So yeah, it's always funny for me to think about that, because obviously we had a bigger scale and a lesser time. And that's just a kind of cool thing to look back on, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the book is just another medium for us to reach people. REWD Group's mission statement at the start was to make a tangible difference. We wanted to create generational wealth by addressing this fundamental demand-supply issue in the property market. There's a huge undersupply of properties. There's a huge undersupply of quality rental stock, and whilst we're doing everything we can to build our own portfolio, it's clear that it's a much bigger problem than we can solve ourselves, so it's reaching out to other people. And in the current environment, the way that the government look at landlords and all of the legislation they've brought in to make it more and more challenging, it's more important than ever that people do it professionally. So we're all about professional property investment, and if you go into it as an amateur just now without having the right knowledge and understanding, you're likely to come up against some serious barriers. And
I think that's the thing, right? We've had so much experience because of just the nature of what we've done. We've got so much to share, and as Conar says, it's another way of getting that experience out there, trying to help people that are looking to get started, and I guess that's where the original concept came from.
So for anyone at home who perhaps isn't already aware of Real Estate Wealth Development or REWD Group, you've had an absolutely amazing business journey so far. Would you like to say a little bit about how the company started and all the various different things that you've been involved with?
How did we start? We started separately.
Yeah.
Alex and I started separately, and he was doing his thing, I was doing mine. Ultimately we were both trying to build our own portfolios. This was around 2018, it must have been, and after Clause 24 came in, we were looking at different ways to try and still make money but not be completely shafted by the tax man. And that's where the whole buying in a limited company thing came about. I think, we really never had any intention of working together initially, but it was just quite cool sharing ideas with one another. We found it quite a cool experience working together, and we were both definitely benefiting from each other's kind of points of view, our own experiences and things. So I think I got to about 10 units, Ed got to about and sorry if I refer to Eck, that's Mr. Alex Robertson. Got to maybe 7 or something like that, you know, and then we tried our hand at the off-market property acquisition stuff, and Alex had put an ad on Facebook, and we got our first direct-to-vendor lead. Some of these terminologies might be new terminologies for the listeners, I don't know, but it was around the time that Eck was getting married. He was too busy to deal with this lead himself. So I went and negotiated the deal, and because like Eck had got the lead and I had went and negotiated it, we just decided to buy our first deal together, you know, and that's really what kicked off REWD Group. But at the time it wasn't REWD Group, at the time it was called We Buy Property Scotland, and I don't know, I mean a similar thing happened with the second deal, you know. The first deal was funded by private investment. It was only 25 grand we paid for a 2-bed 4-block ex-council flat in Alloa, still own it actually. The second deal, similar scenario, albeit it was a 3-bed 125 square metre flat in Ayr. But that time I think I had got the lead, but I was travelling with work, and so Alex went and negotiated it. That was the second deal. It was another private investor. That was only 60 grand we paid for that. And then it just kind of snowballed from there really, you know. After that we just kind of stopped the focus on our own stuff, started building REWD Group, and then we just kept buying. That's how we met Conar. You know, Conar was selling us the deals, he kept bringing us the deals, we kept finding the money, and you know, over a period of time we ended up all getting together really, because we felt that together we could build something even bigger, you know. So I guess that's what started us and takes us to where we are now.
Yeah, it just kind of snowballed quite quickly. I mean, within the first 2.5 years of REWD Group, we got, you know, over 200 properties, and the group branched out into a lot of other avenues. So we've got the training business where we teach people professional property investment. We've got the Blacklock Resort, which is you know, going in for planning just now on 12 lodges, a new restaurant and water activities that we already do there. We've got our developments business. We've got a building company called First Choice Living now that does a lot of home improvement stuff, as well as refurbs for our own stock. So, you know, the group is growing all the time, and it all came from this backbone of buy to let, which has always been our core.
Yeah.
Right, well, I mean, in addition to the property trading and development, I mean, you mentioned your training, and I mean, that's been a hugely successful series of different training programs. Would you like to say a little bit more about that and the kind of things that are involved?
Yeah, I mean, the training business is just going from strength to strength. It's likewise, you know, like the guy said in the beginning, it started off with them just trying to build their own portfolios, and the training business was the same. It started from a completely different concept as to where we're taking it now. Alex and Laurie, you know, originally they just wanted to work with a small group, 10 people or so, get them in, you know, just because they'd identified that they had found this real unique gap where they understood how to move through the motions at a very fast pace and get to where some people get stuck maybe buying 1 or 2, or like Alex and Laurie, 7 or 10. They then didn't know how to expand to, you know, 50 to 100 and then on beyond that. And the guys had figured out how to do that through the financing side of things. And it was just a case of there are other people in that space. But what we quickly identified is there's a lot of people who want to get involved in property, but there's very few, particularly in Scotland, who are maybe at 10 properties. It's really quite rare that you'll get people at that kind of level, or so we thought. And it was maybe too niche. And when I eventually came in and started to work with the guys, you know, I was very resistant towards the training space. It was never anything I wanted to get involved in, and I actually said that, you know, clearly when I joined the guys, is I don't want to get involved in the training. And that was purely from a naive point of view, but it's because I've only ever learned from being a professional in the industry. It's all I've ever done since I was 19, you know, as a property valuer in the industry. I've worked with auction companies and estate agencies, and, you know, I've had to kind of learn the hard way as I've seen it, from gaining all the knowledge throughout the time I've worked in it. And so I was very resistant to it, but actually now, we were just discussing this the other day, my mindset to the training space is completely different, because it's one of those things, you know, that if you identify a problem, the best way to kind of address that problem is to create a solution and change what you dislike about a certain industry or a certain space. And that's what I feel we're trying to do now. And our training company is focused on much more than just selling training courses. That's not what we're about. We do still work with smaller groups, between 10 and 15 people. Last year we only did 4 intakes for the year, so we're working with between sort of 50 to 60 people per year so far. But our ambition is to genuinely help them get from starting point of 0 to 10 units or 10 properties inside 12 months.
Yeah.
And we're doing that through real life experience from everything that we do on a day-to-day basis at REWD Group and sharing that knowledge, but it's through education and the quality supply of heavily discounted deals, so property investment opportunities. That is basically all I've ever done, and it's what I brought to the table for REWD Group in the first instance. And we've now decided to share that with our training clients, because that was one of the biggest frustrations they had. Is, okay, now we have the knowledge, but we can't find the deals to apply what we've learned. So we thought, well, we're equipped to be able to bridge that gap where it benefits us, but ultimately it benefits the training clients first and foremost.
There's so many examples of that now, though, right? So many guys that have come through the training course didn't have a Scooby. In fact, a lot of them were really sceptical. You can't buy property with none of your own money and all that jazz. But again, like me reading that book, and okay, that book was only a tenner, and our course is a little bit more than that. These curious cats come along, and they pay the money to join us on our training courses, and then at the end of the training course, they're sitting with their jaws gaping, and they're thinking, "Oh my God, is this real?" And then even people who they've got none of their own money, they've had to go out and raise finance, just like we had to do back in the day. We've got some guys that have done like 5 Drew, one of the guys, he came in, didn't believe that he could do what we were talking about, came and done the course anyway.
It's a lecturer at uni.
Like no property background, no experience, nothing like that, but was too curious, had to go in, had to learn it, and he's got 5 units in his first few months or so.
Yeah,
he's raised how much he's raised.
He's got one investor at the moment, and they've now got a different setup which is actually going to allow him to grow even further. But he started off with a personal cash pot of 20 grand, and he said, "Look, genuinely, can I get going with that?" I said, "Well, actually, you only need a fraction of that to invest in our training, and the rest will take care of itself with the teachings that you're going to get."
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. He bought his first one inside the first month, and then the next 4 just came in, and all 5 of his deals have been supplied by us.
Yeah.
I think the average, I'm sure Ryan worked out, was at least 28% below market value, with scope to add value as well, never mind the discount that it's been secured at. So he's basically going to go from one source of income as a uni lecturer to creating, I think he'll be about net income of about £1,000 a month from a property portfolio, and he's done that in 3 months, 4 months.
When on his own money, and it's about understanding finance, it's about understanding the deal supply, it's about understanding leverage and the way you can bring all these different factors together. That's what allows you to scale, and that's what we kind of figured out. Yeah. And really, the book is based around that. It's the base knowledge to provide to anyone that's thinking about getting started. There's all the fundamentals are in there. I think there's 9 different sections of the book, and in all honesty, like I said at the start, we've never written a book. We have no idea how to write a book. We don't know if it's a good book or a bad book or whatever. But then we started reading it, and it's like, wow, this is actually really good. And see, if this book was around like when we were trying to get started, it would have just been gold. So I really hope that, and of course I'm going to be biased towards that, right? But I really genuinely believe that the content in this book is just massive, and it really will help people get up and going.
That was definitely one of the key focuses of mine for the book, is that we provide more advanced support, and it's a drop in the ocean in comparison to what we provide in terms of support and the advanced level teachings and our training. But if all you do is buy the book, you should be able to take action from that and it provide value to you. Yeah. Whereas a lot of the property books that I've read personally either tell a story about that individual or how they got there, but it doesn't really give you any practical skills that you can then go and apply yourself. It's just like, oh yeah, that's a really cool story, I'd like to know how you done that.
Yeah.
And it leaves you kind of dangling a wee bit. Or you get ones that are just very short and sweet and they're geared towards come and do my course. I feel through what we've created in this book is that it's got a balance of telling a bit of our story from the real life experience, but it's very much got a load of practical knowledge and skills that you can go and apply. And of course, there will always be an offer of support to continue to work with ourselves after that, if you're serious about scaling a significant buy-to-let portfolio and doing it, like Alex says, from a professional standpoint.
Yeah, our second book will be the story.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that actually, because when I was editing the book, what really amazed me was just how comprehensive it is. It takes you right through from the beginnings of thinking about property trading all the way through to the really detailed strategies that are involved, the pitfalls and the benefits of it. But the really amazing thing about the book, and I think what makes it so unique, is you've put these things into practice. You're not just writing about them. This is your own experience, and in that sense there's almost like an element of life coaching involved in it as much as there is education.
Yeah, it's our experience, right? We've figured all this stuff out just from being in the trenches, battling through all the problems. We kind of never accepted that there wasn't a way to, be successful out of this thing, and we kept getting batted down. There were so many challenges we had to overcome, but ultimately that's what's in the book, right? It's to help everybody that's reading it not have to go through the same kind of sufferings and battles that we had to. It is a roadmap if people want to follow it.
And it is always refer back to this book, The Outliers, which basically talks about very specific people at a very specific time created a very specific outcome, and so many ways in terms of the way REWD Group was formed just fills that framework. With Alex supposed to be in Texas for work and couldn't travel because of COVID, likewise with Laurie, that allowed them to build REWD Group. But also, you're saying about our experiences, and it couldn't be done without the experience. If you look at what Alex did as his full-time job, he was going into these places and building systems to remove himself as quickly as possible. And it's clear to see in terms of the format and the systems that we built in REWD Group that couldn't have been done without his experience in another industry altogether. Likewise, with Laurie's ambition to take things forward. He was a sales guy, and it was always this business development, but it was focused on building a life that was on their terms and wasn't dictated by other people. But all the skills that we got from each of our separate experiences is what has allowed us to kind of bring it all together. And I would definitely say it's very unique.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, it would be remiss of me not to ask all three of you, in fact, having read the book now and looked at all of the various different strategies that are offered inside it, what would you say is your number one piece of advice for someone who's looking to get involved in the property market today?
Take action. Do something. Stop sitting on the sidelines. Get off the fence. Make a move. It's never going to be easy. It's never going to be a walk in the park. But hey, if you want to make that move, we're here to help you.
Yeah, for me, I think, I briefly mentioned at the start, but now more than ever it's critical to be professional in property investment. Amateurs will lose out and lose out big. I think the regulations have got tighter, the financing situations become more challenging recently. The government has had a series of runs on landlords for the last 4 or 5 years in terms of the tax legislation. It is a fantastic opportunity to get into buy-to-let because so many landlords who are non-professionals are leaving the market. There's great opportunities to buy, but you need to know what you're doing. You need to get educated. And had we had the education that we have now at the start, there's so many mistakes we would have managed to bypass.
Just on that, sorry, before Connor comes in, right, because you just read something earlier about 80% landlords looking to leave the market.
85%.
What an opportunity, man. All this stock coming to the market, see, when you know what you're doing, you can massively capitalise on that. And so many people just don't understand. But that is a huge... all these problems that the government have created, quote-unquote problems, are really just a massive opportunity when you know what you're doing.
And it all comes back down to the fundamentals of the market. There's massive undersupply in the UK housing market. For the first time ever, the government have abandoned their target to build 300 new houses in a year because they've never managed to achieve it. So the situation is only getting worse. Rents are increasing significantly, albeit there's a rent increase ban just now. That's a short-term problem. They're only going to go up, and demand is only going to continue to go up, especially as landlords start to leave the market. The fundamentals are very strong for this business, but you need to know what you're doing.
And there's a lot of fear in the market at the moment because of the interest rates and things, but internally we review this on a daily basis because we have to. It's instantly, directly impacting on the business. But there's so many ways once you understand how it all works, how you can protect yourself, but not only that, how to take advantage of it as well. And I recently had this dialogue with someone on Facebook, I think it was, and they were saying I sounded a bit mercenary because of the way I was explaining that there is a lot of fear in the market, but there is always going to be winners and losers. And I know I would much rather be on the side of winning by spending a bit of time to understand how this works and how you can protect yourself and your family by simply just getting involved in the game at the right time, but also with a clear path as to how to make it a success, or at least certainly minimise any negative impact that it can have. And too many people will just jump in. They see the trend of property when the market's going one direction, everybody gets involved, and that's ultimately where qualified and experienced investors like us actually make the most money, because we sold off a lot of assets when the market was high, but we were also gearing up doing that because we were gearing up to buy a lot more at where we're heading into now. One final comment, from a bias point of view, in terms of when the question that you posed, is that for me it was a bit of a selfish point of that the training business is now to qualify investors, because all I was looking for at the time is my focus was finding the best possible deals for my clients, but my clients then had an expectation if I needed things done quickly, I needed no messing around, and I'll get you the best possible deals, but I need it done this way. And too many of them, if they didn't know what they were doing, would basically affect my business. And now guys like Alex and Laurie, it's the reason I kept going to them and selling them deals, is because we understood from both parts how it was supposed to work. And now that's what our training business is trying to create, is qualified investors who understand how to get deals done, and they're the ones I'm going to bring the best deals to. So they might be attracted by some of the deals that we talk about in the book, but just be aware that good sourcers or good property sourcers will not do business with those who don't know what they're doing.
Well, Laurie, Alex and Connor, it's been a pleasure to speak to you today, and thanks so much for taking the time to discuss your book. For anyone who's interested in an introduction to property trading, or just simply finding out more about a really fascinating subject, this book is 300 pages of pure gold, and I think you will certainly find something of interest, perhaps even aspects of the business that you hadn't even considered before, and I'm sure, having read it, you will want to find out more. So thank you very much indeed for having joined us today.
Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Fast Track to Property Millions is available to buy from all good online retailers and independent booksellers worldwide. Thanks for joining us today. I hope that you'll tune in again soon.
If you would like to find out more about advertising on the Extremist Publishing podcast, please visit their website at www.extremistpublishing.com for details.